this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
I'm not putting that hack drug up my nose. It's so 80s.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
I was confused because your husband is holding my old baby.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
The Mouth Dork.
Well, Sheriff, I better get going. I gotta be drunk by sundown.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork.
We killed you, Jimmy Bones.
And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
We're all together. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's been a while.
It feels so good. Howdy, dorks.
Howdy.
Hi.
All right.
It's been a while. Been a while.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
but I got to say, the D&B show, pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Worthy of a spinoff. I guess you guys have kind of been doing that already with your Game of Thrones recapping, too.
Yeah. That's gonna spin out into something else we're trying to plan out.
Ooh,
so,
excitement.
look forward to that.
Intrigue.
But in all seriousness, I really enjoyed those 2 episodes. Yeah. And I really appreciated the Oscar noms talk because you guys, you sounded off on some things that I was feeling. So,
really? Yeah. It's not too exciting this year.
I straight up don't care.
Damn. Are you serious, man?
Yeah, because Still Awesome is happening on that day. We're screening New Jack City.
Yeah.
And originally I was like, well, I can't. I'm going to have to, we're going to have to all force Billy to do Still Awesome.
Yeah.
And then all those nominations came out, and I'm like, nope, I'm going to go do New Jack City.
Yeah. Oh, you are?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to be in the theater or be in the seat when Green Book wins or Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's not. I don't think they won't do that.
What's your bet right now?
Honestly, after SAG, I think Black Panther has a really good shot.
I do want to be in the theater. I do want to be at the Sears party if Black Panther wins, though.
The one thing I heard about the SAG thing is maybe, by the time this kind of wave of support for Black Panther has come through, most of the Academy has already voted.
Sure. Well, and you have to figure with the preferential ballot, it's all about what's the number 2 of the voters who voted for the least popular film. So, what's the least popular film of those nominations? Probably The Favorite. So if The Favorite's the first movie to get bumped out during the preferential ballot, that means the number 2 votes of that party gets redistributed.
Yeah.
And The Favorite's number 2 votes, is that Black Panther? I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe not.
It's probably Green Book.
Oh, no, don't say that. Oh, man. If Green Book wins, that's going to be such a disappointment.
No, I would be happier if Green Book won
than if Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody has no shot.
It was straight up a bad movie. It clearly does have a shot because it's one of the nominees. That's what being a nominee is. Is having a shot.
With those, I think with the fact that the movie is mediocre and the fact that with all the stuff with Bryan Singer.
But that all happened after the first wave of voting. It's already happened.
Well, it didn't happen after the voting.
But people
started talking about it after the voting, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to be at New Jack City, and everybody else should be too.
I just dropped my can tab into my LaCroix. Wouldn't that be sad if that's how I died, doing a podcast while I do can tab?
Don't do that.
Brian, how was your week in Dork?
Week in Dork or week in Day was pretty good. I watched a couple movies this morning.
You mean your day in Dork?
Day in Dork.
Were you just in cryo sleep the whole week?
I said week in Day. It makes no sense. Anyway, cryo. I'm sorry.
You were in cryo sleep the whole week?
Yeah. You know, I have to try to rejuvenate.
Were you just recovering from the Patriots win?
Yeah, you could say that.
Sports talk.
Or how boring that was, and we got no real movie trailers, but that's okay. Avengers Endgame was good though. I did like that.
All 30 seconds of it.
It's great though.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Did you see it there?
Fuck you. You know I didn't watch that goddamn trailer.
It's pretty good though. It's pretty good. There's a movie called High Flying Bird that came out, and I know this premiered at Sundance as well. By
Bram's like, word?
Did it?
I was there. Word?
A lot of shit came out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of movies that you guys probably didn't check out. But
that is true.
This is a film directed by Steven Soderberg, and it was released on Netflix this past Friday. And I remember they said it was going to be released on Friday. And it's the synopsis here on IMDb is: a sports agent pitches a rookie basketball client on an intriguing and controversial business opportunity during a lockout. So basically, this is a film that stars Andre Holland from Moonlight, and it's also written by Terrell Alvin McCraney, who was the screenwriter from Moonlight, and which is kind of odd and interesting to me because when I think back at Moonlight is very sparse on dialogue. It's more kind of based on a lot of the imagery of that film and the mood of that film. And this film, High Flying Bird, is the dialogue is really talky. It's very showy, almost in like a Tarantino style, which I found to be kind of interesting coming from the screenwriter from Moonlight. But it's basically, and the interesting thing about this movie that Soderbergh did, he did the same thing with Unsane. He shot it on an iPhone, and it's basically telling the story about he's an agency, and it's basically telling you about the world of sports agency. And Andre Holland plays Ray Burke, who represents a rookie who is played by this guy Melvin Gregg, who does like a lot of internet skit videos, which I thought was kind of fascinating because I watch him a lot on Facebook and Instagram, and the fact that now he's in the Soderbergh film, I thought that was fascinating. Zazie Beetz, your girl is.
You know what? So I just want to stop you right there. Brian tells me about this because he came over to do. We're continuing our Game of Thrones rewatch and recap videos. And he mentions, I'm gonna watch this movie called High Flying Bird. It's on Netflix. It's Steve Soderbergh's movie. It's shot with an iPhone, so I can have to talk about my weekend Dork. You didn't tell me you left out the fact that Zazie, you're a hater. You forget. You know that's my baby.
Because I was watching it this morning and I was like, oh shit. I was like, damn, Zazie Beetz is in this, and I was like, oh, I forgot.
Because when you left, I put on Netflix for something to watch, and that's the first thing, and I watched the trailer, and I was like, that motherfucker.
Darren, it's your own responsibility to know everything your bae is doing.
Yeah, I'm not a stalker. I give her freedoms, but Brian, you failed me. You failed me.
My bad. But I don't know. I found it to be kind of fascinating because it's really kind of diving into this world of the sports agency and how these rookies in basketball are kind of being used and abused by the system. And it intercuts with interviews with 3 professional basketball players, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, and Reggie Jackson. And they talk about their experiences actually in the NBA. Coming into the league, like when they were drafted, the experience of being a rookie and how you have to assimilate to professional basketball life, and everything that comes with that. And I don't know, I found it to be really, really fascinating. It was a little bit of a hard watch for me. I definitely want to go back and kind of rewatch it, but I thought it was an interesting take in getting a kind of like this inside look at the agency world of sports. It's not Jerry Maguire, but it really kind of gives you like an authentic, real world. And I think that's one of the reasons why he shot it on an iPhone. And I think
why was it a hard watch?
Just the dialogue. Going back to just like the way they speak and the language and everything. It's really talky, really showy, and then also it's a little bit distracting, the visuals, because the way it's shot on the iPhone. You can see like just how like when you shoot on the iPhone, it has like that moire look, like when you when it's against bricks or certain type of things, like you could see like the shuttering move a little bit.
I could not handle it with Unsane.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and we've seen iPhone movies before.
Yeah.
Tangerine probably being like the best example of it, and that movie is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I did not like Soderbergh's look for Unsane or anything about that movie. Actually.
Yeah, so it definitely has a raw like look to it, and to me that was a little bit distracting, especially with a lot of interior shots, because it looks very silhouette-y. Silhouette-y?
Yeah, that's a word.
Okay. But
that's my rapper name.
Silhouette-y. I like that. That's good. That's good.
Thanks.
Yeah, because Zachary Quinto is in it. I think he plays like another agent in the agency. Kyle MacLachlan is in it. I think he plays I think the owner of the league. And so it's a fascinating movie, but I definitely want to try to check it out again. But I just thought it was interesting what Soderbergh was doing. I was telling Darren this. I like how Soderbergh is experimenting a lot with filmmaking. I was telling him about what he was trying to do with distribution deals with his movie Logan Lucky. That didn't really work out, like what he was trying to do with the theater owners by like cutting out the middleman and really taking the movies directly to the theater owners. He was doing that with Logan Lucky, and then of course with Unsane and this, shooting films on the iPhone. So it just feels like Soderbergh is really just kind of pushing the creativity aspect of filmmaking and the film business. And I like, whether it succeeds or fails, I like the fact that he's taking chances doing stuff like that.
Looking at my Letterboxd account this weekend, it definitely seems like a lot of people are watching this movie.
High Flying Bird?
Yeah, High Flying Bird.
Okay.
And so, and I'm like you. I'm curious for whatever Soderbergh is doing. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
So it's on my to-watch list.
Yeah, and I wanted to check it out because Dave Ehrlich, who I follow on
that guy,
yeah, he raved about this movie. Like, he loved it. I wouldn't be surprised now if it's on his top 25 at the end of this year, the way he was talking about it. So it really got me curious into checking it out. But for me, it was a 3-star movie at this point. I did want to mention real quick, I also watched a movie on Netflix called Revenger. This is a martial arts film.
Heard good things about this.
Yeah. It's good. No. The action is incredible. The action is absolutely incredible. But it's a South Korean film, and the thing that I really couldn't connect was like the dramatic moments in the film, like dealing with some of the different characters. Now, because I know Korean films, they like to play with tone, so tonally the movie kind of shifts back and forth, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. The movie I'm thinking about is a movie called The Host. I think The Host really does a great job with those tonal shifts. But this movie, man, it just did not work for me. Like the tonal shifts when they try to go from like the dramatic moments to the comedic moments. But with that being said, when we get to the action, it is absolutely incredible. The beginning, the opening of it, I was a little skeptical because they do a lot of shaky cam stuff, but that kind of settles in after a while. And when we get to some of those more extensive action sequences in the film, man, this guy, Bruce Caan, who's in the movie, the lead guy, I looked him up on IMDb. He's only got like 3 credits, and he hasn't really been working.
He's a real martial artist, though.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him. I would love to see more work with him because he was phenomenal in that film. So it's definitely worth checking out just for the action sequences.
Cool.
Yeah, but Revenger, I thought was pretty good. Another 3-star movie, but it was decent. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
That's a good day in Dork.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Not too bad. Not too bad.
All right, Wife Dork.
Yes.
Man, how was your week in Dork?
My week in Dork was amazing.
Yeah.
As was Brad's. We got back from Sundance on Tuesday. We were supposed to get back on Monday. It's a long, sad story.
Oh, yeah.
Tires explode on planes.
Whoops.
No. But yeah, having to get our tire changed in Utah before we could fly to Dallas really made our trip.
It was one of those things where
One
they were
day
like,
longer.
Okay, it's only going to take 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Meanwhile, they're shuffling all the first-class passengers onto another flight.
And then 4 hours later,
Damn.
we get on a plane from Salt Lake City to Dallas.
Yeah.
And we miss our connector, so they put us up
By
in a
10
hotel.
minutes.
Yeah.
Literally by 10 minutes, we missed our connection. And so we stayed at a jank hotel.
It's the worst hotel.
with a, like, they gave us a one-time use toothbrush. I'm, like, spitting out because we didn't have our luggage, so I'm like spitting
shit.
out bristles and shit. And of course, it's a day that I wore leggings.
Yeah.
So you know, like I had to do the thing where you flip your underwear inside out and stuff.
Whoops.
Like it was just nasty.
I
The whole
slept
situation
naked.
was yeah, he did. So did I. So did I. But I mean, like I don't know.
Oh,
Anyway,
man, that's-
it was the worst. It was
That's rough.
the worst.
Oh, and by all that, by 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes. But so we're gonna do a full-on Sundance episode a little later.
So that's where all the bragging will occur.
Yeah, a little bit now, more later. I mean, we're gonna eat out on this Sundance experience for a while because we're horrible people. Okay, anyway, but when we got back, on the plane, I wanted to mention this. On the plane, I did watch Trigger Warning with Killer Mike. We had a really great off mic discussion about it. The second episode, a little awkward to watch on a plane. Brian did warn me. I wanted to be cool and not a prude, but I did skip about 15 to 30 seconds on my phone. But I second everything Brian said about it. I thought it was absolutely amazing. It reminded me a lot of Penn and Teller's Bullshit, where they're like in Penn and Teller's Bullshit, they'll point to like something and like
PETA.
Yeah, like PETA or the way we treat our pets in America or whatever. So it's like that same kind of thing, but obviously they have a very like Penn and Teller are libertarians. Killer Mike is a little bit more of a Bernie bro, a little bit more socialist, which actually aligns a little bit better with Brad and my worldviews, I think. But so it was. I think those two would be interesting to watch back and back. Bullshit and Trigger Warning. All of a sudden, you're just going to be seeing the code and everything. The world is full of lies and deceit made to keep people down. But me and Brad, we're gonna go to We Buy Black and we're gonna buy some black stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Support.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful. Also, Lindsay Thomas, Decree of Freya on Twitter, friend of the podcast, she's been on. She recommended a new podcast that I thought Darren would like a lot, called The Dream. I'm a little late on the uptake on this. This came out a while ago, but the host is a woman who was part of This American Life, but it's about pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing. So it's really interesting. It starts with the origin of the pyramid scheme, which is something called the airplane game, where it's essentially like a person finds a bunch of people to give them $200, and then those people go and find people to give them $200, and it's literally just passing money up a chain until the people on the bottom don't have any money, right? And then but then it got changed into more multi-level marketing things with beauty products like Avon, Limelight, Lip Sense, these kinds of things where they act like, hey, you can be an entrepreneur. You can work on your own time. All you have to do is, spend this money on a starter kit and recruit other friends to be your employees. And really it's just the system to make people broke, essentially. But then she goes way further and shows how, like, Amway, which my mom, when I was younger, like, she bought Amway. Our friend from church, Mariana, sold Amway products. But Amway is a huge backer of the Republican Party. And through its relationship with Reagan and then Bush and even Clinton, they've been making it so that multi-level marketing can continue, and not certain types of pyramid schemes are being legalized. Wow. So now, like, there's been this resurgence of multi-level marketing, and now it's starting to target, it targets immigrants, it targets the underemployed. It targets women. So it's really insidious, and it goes way deeper than you ever thought. So that's called The Dream, and I thank Lindsay for recommending it to me. It was a great plane listen.
Yeah, it's crazy because I've had some of my friends like invite me to some of those meetings. I remember this one called 5 Links, which is something like a cable box system where they would try to get people to buy into the system to either like almost like cutting the cord. And I just remember like listening to them talk, and all they would talk about is like, oh, I live in this 5-bedroom house, I have a Mercedes, and it's all this stuff to kind of just get you thinking like, oh, I can live this dream.
Brad was approached by a recruiter trying to sell like health bars.
Yeah.
Like where Brad was like really feeling quite low in his retail job, and a complete stranger walked up to him and was
in
like,
a Target.
Like, you seem like a charismatic dude.
We should
like, do you
talk
wanna...
about this thing.
Yeah, and Brad went and met with him, and he was like, of course, Brad was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing where it's just like picking off weak people, and it's not only like
accurate,
but I mean, like, he was able to, like, even though you didn't fall for it, he recognized somebody who's in
desperate.
a weakened state, and people are going like thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars into debt, thinking, oh well, you have to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but like, it shouldn't be you pay your company money.
Exactly.
You should spend money on yourself. You should spend money on your product, but you shouldn't be sending money up a chain to make other people rich. So I found that really fascinating. Yeah. And then on Wednesday, Brad and I went to the Alamo Drafthouse, and we saw The Kid Who Would Be King. This movie, not doing so hot. I think Brad and I were the only people in the theater.
Are you serious?
Wow. Yeah, and we walked in, and the lights were like fully on. They hadn't even closed the lights. And the
movie started already?
No, the movie hadn't started. It was still pre-show.
It was pre-show. The pre-show was going on.
But like literally, it was up until when they start doing the, bum ba da ba da da da. How do you order at Alamo Drafthouse? Brad's like, they really should turn off the lights in here. And the waitress came in, and she's like,
I went out and I told them, you need to shut the lights off.
Yeah. So the waitress came in and was like, sorry, but literally nobody's been in here all day.
Damn.
So that movie had been running to no one all day.
Damn.
Yeah, it wasn't doing good at the box office.
No.
I know. And
which is a bummer.
From our Still Awesome series, we're huge Joe Cornish fans. We love Attack the Block, and it feels like forever waiting for his follow-up to Attack the Block. I don't think that this is a movie that stands up to that legacy. It's very much a kid's movie, but I found, like, to me, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the spirit of films like The Goonies and The Monster Squad and The Last Starfighter. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, this is okay looking. But I need, I have to put all my faith in Joe Cornish that he's going to make something good out of it. And the movie is better than what the trailer presents itself to be. It's good. I think there's some pacing issues. I think there's some budgetary issues. It looks really cheap. And it's not like Attack the Block was a huge billion-dollar movie or anything.
But I think that they were very conscientious with the design, that they made a design of an alien that they could present on screen that's not too, like...
And location-wise, it was much more confined than The Kid Who Would Be King. I don't need more King Arthur stories. We know that. Brian does. Brian wants more Legend of the Swords.
Yeah. I would like a couple more. It would be nice.
Yeah. But I'm sort of fill up on Excalibur stories. And this isn't like a direct adaptation of any Arthurian legend by any means. It's about a kid who is bullied at school, and he's chased off the property and finds a construction site. And in that construction site, he finds Excalibur in a stone, and he pulls it out, and, adventure waits.
I thought the fact that, like, it was going on the theme of, okay, this is when Morgana can come back to the Earth is when the Earth is devoid of hope.
Yeah, and I love the opening credits where it's showing the misery of London, right? You see the poverty, you see, the desperate people, you see the angry people. And I like how Cornish is speaking to the apathy and the negativity of the world right now in this film.
And I think that that's a valuable message for kids. Like the idea of when you are devoid of hope, when you think that everyone is bad and nobody is looking out for you and you don't need to look out for anybody else, that's when you're vulnerable to evil. Yeah. I liked that idea. Yeah. What struck me about this movie that made me feel very nostalgic was how entirely wholesome it is. Like, there's no bathroom humor. There is no swearing. There is no real violence, except for violence against,
skeleton men. This is a movie that my mom would allow me to watch. And I have not seen that in a kid's movie in a long time. It's genuinely, wholesome. It's a wholesome movie with a great message. It has this adventure story. It's not anything new or anything like that, but I think that it's something that kids can connect to, and they bring in the Arthurian legend in a very accessible way. We've seen 1,000 Arthurian Legend of the Swords, but we haven't seen this one. My favorite one is still the Sword in the Stone cartoon. The John Borman's Excalibur, Brian. You know that one that I've recommended to you several times.
You still haven't watched that shit?
Yeah.
You have?
I don't have access to it yet.
I'd led you by Blu-ray, but give me back my Hitchcocks.
I'm sorry. I'm kidding. But it's interesting, though, because there hasn't been a lot of, PG adventure films that are geared towards kids. I mean, of course, we have movies like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe that kids love, but those movies aren't talking to the kids. Those aren't movies that kids can really identify with. Like you were saying, like Goonies and Monster Squad, where it's about kids going through these adventures, and we don't have that subgenre. It feels like now it's gone. Mm-hmm. So it's cool to that.
You can see it.
I don't think that's geared directly to kids.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
But yeah, we just don't have that. It doesn't seem like we have that genre anymore. So that's cool that this movie kind of can live in that space.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I like the kids a lot. I think Andy Serkis's kid, whatever his first name
Ashburn Serkis.
Yeah,
He
Ashburn.
Looks like a little Andy Serkis.
He does. I thought he was good, and the guy playing Merlin, I thought was great. Or the guy playing
Emery.
The young Merlin. What's his name? Angus
Emery. I thought he was really funny.
Yeah.
He's going to be a great comedic physical actor.
I thought it was weird how they incorporated the stars, the quote-unquote celebrities of this movie. Patrick Stewart is old Merlin. Yeah. And I love Patrick Stewart, but honestly, he just shows up, he does a day's worth of work, and then they pepper him throughout the film. Okay. And I just rather have the young Merlin. Yeah. And then Rebecca Ferguson, who I love, and she has at least one good moment as Morgana. That her threat I did not feel.
I think that's true, but I like the fact she was really in touch with the earth, and her detaching from the root system is legit gross.
Conceptually, I thought what they did with her, the character, and the skeleton fire beasts was all very cool. But I did feel this is a little bit of a waste of Ferguson and Stewart. And then it suffers that. We're building to a climax. Hey, it's happened. Oh, there's still another climax. Oh, okay. And I don't think that quite worked.
Yeah. I mean, there were definite pacing issues, but I found it overall really charming. And I think it's funny. I like the fact that the sidekick friend has changed a little bit. Yeah, he's a fat sidekick friend, Betters. But I like the fact, we're seeing Indian kids in this movie. Mm-hmm. Dean Shamu. But, the bully kid has not changed since the fucking 80s. Is a blonde, white, handsome asshole
named Lance.
Of course.
I hate movie bullies. Not because they're. I just don't like. I wish they would evolve that archetype. You know, and update it.
It's always the same story. He doesn't have it so easy at home. He's at
To this film's defense, I liked how they tied it into the Arthurian legend, and that Arthur's going to unite his enemies to fight a bigger force. Mm-hmm. So you needed a antagonist of some sort, but he is a very cliche 80s bully kid.
Yeah. So I think that that could evolve a little bit. But I think that this is a solid kids movie.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I could recommend it to, nieces and nephews and guilt free.
It's not Paddington. It's not like
no
one's seen Paddington and it's like the best film of the year. But it's a solid kids film, and you can feel Joe Cornish in the movie. But it's not also either Attack the Block.
Yeah. I thought that the second climax, even though it was a second climax, was pretty fun.
That shit moved me.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Well, with the scene with the mom and the kid in the bedroom,
that was beautiful.
It made me want to revisit not King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, but John Borman's Excalibur. I really want to go back and watch that movie this week.
And I do think that relationship with the mother and that scene is an evolution.
Yes.
Of the adventure movie, because most of the time it's like we had this adventure together and now the grown-ups can never know and we're going to take it to our graves. And this is one where it's just like, you know what, if you're in trouble, you should tell your parents. They love you, they want you to be safe, and there should always be communication with you and the people who support you. I thought that was new.
If the adults don't get you, don't worry, you've got Merlin to do his
Man, he was out friggin' Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange. I love the shit he was doing with his hand.
I love all his snaps.
And honestly, him sneezing to become an owl got me every freaking time. I thought that was so funny.
The first time he falls in the cafeteria and explodes into feathers and the kids scream in terror, that's a great joke.
Brad was like, what did they fucking see?
Yes.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
All right, that's all you got?
Yeah.
B, how was your weekend, Dork?
Great weekend, Dork.
Yep.
I've been watching a lot of stuff at home besides The Kid Who Would Be King. Shudder has just launched their documentary horror noir, directed by Xavier Bergen, produced by Ashley Blackwell, and some other folks. It's a history of black horror, and it's a celebration of black horror, but also it doesn't shy away from the stereotypes of black actors in horror films in the 80s. It starts technically it starts with Get Out. They use Jordan Peele's Get Out as an entryway. Hey, you love this film that commented on race, but guess what? These stories have been around for a while, and these this narrative is not necessarily new. Let's go check out some stuff. And then it jumps to Birth of a Nation and Woodrow Wilson and how Americans saw the African American community at the beginning of cinema, right? And then it takes you through all of that stuff, and then you start going into the 70s with blaxploitation, and they talk about Blackula, and they have all the actors who were there, and William Crane, the director of Blackula, and they talk to all those guys. And then they go into the 80s, and they're like, oh boy, 80s, not a great decade for black art, although they highlight a few things. And then they talk about the 90s, and I'm always bagging on the 90s as being not the greatest decade of cinema. But it highlights a few films that I think I didn't respect as much as I did when they were out. And this documentary made me go back and revisit them because Shudder had a couple of them streaming. Tales from the Hood is a great horror movie. It's in that Tales from the Crypt style, but each segment is talking to a societal ill. It talks to police brutality. It talks to parental abuse. It talks to drug abuse. It talks gang violence. And each segment, while it is still in the confines of a weird, gross Tales from the Crypt episode, has a lot more to say than your average HBO episode, So if you haven't seen Tales from the Hood in a while, you need to revisit it. Great practical effects. Clarence Williams III is basically doing his Crypt Keeper. He's amazing in the movie. David Alan Grier.
Oh, man.
I mean, I
forget he's a monster. And I'm not spoiling. I'm not saying he's a creature, but I mean, he's a
bad dude.
You're not used to seeing him
just
that.
Yeah, he's super scary.
Yeah,
and that segment's probably my favorite segment of the thing. So I watched that, and then they talk about Ernest Dickerson with Demon Knight and Bones, and I revisited Bones. That's not a great movie, But again, like from a practical effects standpoint, a lot of good stuff going on. It's a weird movie. Forgot they descend to hell, and there's this whole like corridor of melding and morphing body parts. It's really disgusting. The performances in Bones are not great. Although I like Snoop Dogg and I like Pam Grier in that.
Oh, Pam Grier is Pam Grier.
But everyone around those two is not like the best. And so so then it goes through the 90s and made me appreciate the 90s a little bit more.
Hold on, B. When did Tony Todd play Candyman? Is that 80s or 90s?
Yeah, 90s. And Candyman's
right?
another one that they celebrate.
Good.
Let's see. Oh yeah, Ken Foray and Keith David are in the documentary.
Yeah.
Of course, they talk about They Live, and they talk about Dawn of the Dead, and they're great together.
Yeah. Oh, they're in the same.
They're in the same
Oh, yeah.
interview together. They're so good.
Yeah.
But then Tony Todd, of course, they interview him. They talk about Candyman. We're going to get a new Candyman coming up. I need to revisit that one. I'll probably do that this week as well.
What do you think about Lakeith Stanfield being rumored to be the Candyman?
I mean, I'll watch anything.
I don't think he's rumored for that role. I think he's
going to be in the movie.
But yeah, I think he was supposed to be in the movie, but not playing.
Oh,
if he was playing Candyman, I'm for it. If he's not playing Candyman, I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what they can do with that story because again, I haven't revisited Candyman in a while. While there's a lot of really interesting ideas in that film, some of the stuff is still pretty problematic, and I'm curious to see them update that story in a 2019 context. So I don't know, like I came away from watching horror noir going, you know what, the 90s weren't that bad.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff in the 90s. And then there's they talk about how when the aughts happened and 9/11 happens and it goes into that torture porny area again, and then now we're having a little bit of a resurgence with films like Get Out. Get Out gets a lot of love in horror noir, but I came away going, I need to revisit Tales from the Hood. I got to look at Bones. I got to look at Ganja and Hess. I got to look at Candyman again. So I don't know. It's one of those documentaries. Nothing special about the form, but it celebrates and highlights these creators that don't necessarily get a lot of attention, and that's always exciting. Like I love this type of documentary, celebratory documentary.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I went to the Alamo Winchester yesterday. Andy Geierson couldn't host a film club, so he asked me last minute to host a film club. And I didn't have a car, and Lisa was working, so I had to call my parents because I said yes to it. And then I was like, "Oh, I have no way to get there. Mom and Dad, can I borrow the car?" They're like, "No, you can't borrow it, but we'll drive you because we haven't talked to you since Sundance."
Yeah.
All right. So road trip to the Alamo Winchester.
Yeah.
And so my parents dropped me off at the theater, and then they went and had like a Winchester night.
Oh, that's cool.
Fun.
They had like a date night, and they hung out, and then I came out. They picked me up, and then we drove all back.
Oh man, that's dope. Yeah,
felt like high school.
It really did feel like yes, yeah. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Did they walk up to you while you were talking to your cool friends and make you feel embarrassed?
No.
That's what high school's like.
They kept their distance. Like while
Shout
I was
out
in
to
the
Mom
lobby.
and Pop Galaxon. Yeah.
They were like hanging out in the parking lot waiting for me to finish talking to film club.
Parents are respectful.
Yeah. So, and, I tried to convince my mom and dad to join me for the film I was hosting, which was Blood for Dracula.
Okay.
Your dad didn't go for that?
No, he sure
His
did
favorite movie being French Kiss?
No, he didn't. And I had not watched Blood for Dracula in a long time either. Starring Udo Kier, directed by Paul Morrissey, presented by Andy Warhol.
How'd that play?
That movie... like film clubs, like one type of vibe, and then they also have psycho cinema, and that's a totally other type of vibe. Blood for Dracula is a psycho cinema movie.
Yeah.
Film club, some people really enjoyed it. Some people most certainly did not.
Yeah.
There's, it's a lot of nudity.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of outdated, misogynistic nudity. There's a handyman character. I guess I'll just do the setup. All right. So Udo Kier's Dracula.
Is he a good Dracula?
Yes.
I know that's a rhetorical question because it's Udo Kier, but I just want to know, like...
He's a good Udo Kier.
Okay, got it.
So the setup is, he's he's getting sickly. He hasn't had virgin blood in a long time. He needs virgin blood. It's got to be virgin blood. And in Romania, I guess there's just no virgins in Romania.
Damn.
And this is literally stated in the plot. Look, Master, he's got his little henchman. Master, let's go to Italy. It's a very religious country. Their daughters are all virgins in Italy. So if we go to Italy, we'll have a buffet of virgins to feast on.
I wonder if it's like the vampire equivalent of having to be gluten free. You're like, there's just nowhere for me to eat in a small town.
That yes, in the context of this movie, it's just like that, Lisa. So Udo Kier and his henchmen go to Italy because they're a religious nation of virgins. And they just start looking around like, okay, all right, well, there's not as many virgins as we thought there were going to be.
You lied, motherfucker.
So the henchman's like at a bar, and he hears about this family. He's like, oh, this family? Oh, there's like 4 daughters? And are they a religious family? Oh, they're a really religious family. They're devout. Okay, well, let's go over to that family. Hey, Master, let's go over and hang out with this family. Let's see if they need to marry off their people off their daughters, because I've also heard that they are financially strapped, and you're a Romanian count, so you've got all the cash, and they are. They need money. They need to marry off one of their daughters so they can get some of this count's money, and so they serve the daughters up to Dracula. They don't know he's a vampire, but so he goes to the oldest daughter, and he gets some alone time with her, and he's like, "Look, I don't care if you're a virgin or not, but that's what my family cares about. So if you've had sex, you can tell me. It's okay." And she's like, no, I've never had sex. I've never had sex. No, I'm serious. I need a woman who knows all the ins and outs of sex. And I don't have time to be teaching you how to have sex. No, you're going to have to teach me. I'm sorry, I'm a virgin. Well, we know she's already been hanging out with this handyman. That her and her sister have been doing this handyman. And, we know she's lying as an audience. Dracula doesn't know that, and he goes, you know what? I believe you. And he rips into her throat and just drinks. And he's like, oh, this is good. He looks up into the sky, and then suddenly they put a green gel light on him. And his expression changes, and earmuffs, Lisa.
Yeah.
The worst blood vomit scene I've ever seen in a movie, and I've seen multiple blood vomit scenes. It's the most extensive vomit scene. Gets super sick. He has a little seizure. He recovers. Well, now she's his slave because she's been bitten. On to the next daughter. Next night. Look, I've learned that your older sister, not a virgin. But you can tell me, are you a virgin? She's like, yeah, I'm a virgin. Well, we also know that she's also been doing the handyman. And so the entire time you're watching the scene, you know that he's going to get her, he's going to drink her blood, and he's going to be sick again. So there's this nervous energy that goes through the crowd during this whole sequence.
So is this a metaphor? Is Dracula like Goldilocks?
Oh yeah, it's actually a lot like Goldilocks, right? This one's too big, this one's too, except they're all too big.
This one's too slutty.
Yeah,
this is also too slutty.
And he bites into her. Same thing happens. Gets horribly sick. He then finds the oldest, the third youngest daughter, or maybe she's now the oldest one because she's been engaged before. And he's talking to her, and she's like, well, I was engaged. He's like, oh, you were engaged before? Well, then you're definitely not a virgin, so I'll just skip over you and go to the 14-year-old daughter. Ugh. And the handyman's like, he now knows what's what. He knows that Dracula's going around biting women.
Oh, shit.
He's like, I need to go get that 14-year-old daughter, and I need to have sex with that 14-year-old daughter
to save her life.
And he rapes her.
Oh, all right.
She's not 14 as an actress. She's an adult actress, but still super gross, disgusting.
Yeah.
Saves her from Dracula. There's this massive showdown with the handyman, who's also a communist. I could go into that. I'm not going to. It's crazy. And it's handyman with an axe versus Dracula. And he hacks off of Dracula's arms, both of his arms. And during the final fight, Udo Kier has no arms. And he's snarling at the handyman with the axe. The handyman chops off his leg, and then he chops off his other leg. And then the final battle is torso Udo Kier versus the handyman with the axe. It just keeps hacking. And then, things happen from there, too.
What the fuck? What's the tone of it? Is it played for
camp? It's super campy.
Okay.
There's debate as to whether or not that was intended, but that's certainly the result.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a widely accepted film club kind of movie.
Yeah.
So some people definitely took offense, but there was lots of laughter in the crowd, and I mean, I really enjoyed watching it again. But you have to enjoy these trashy, grotesque little oddities, and I love Udo Kier.
Yeah.
Love Udo Kier.
Yeah.
And he's great in this movie, but it's not for everybody.
All right. You been reading any comic books?
No, I haven't.
Nothing on the plane?
I read a little bit of Batman Year 2, and then Lisa and I were still doing our comic book couples counseling podcast.
Right. What books are you in for that?
We just did the autobiography of Bruce Wayne, which is a single issue of The Brave and the Bold from 1983.
How's that?
It was fun.
It was really
We had a
cute.
good time with it. We're focusing on the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, and that's just such a weird, DC keeps trying to make that happen.
I was gonna say, haven't they tried?
Yeah, I mean,
They've been married in multiple universes and
Iterations.
situations.
Yeah, it's
none successful.
Well, one's successful, and
Really?
that's the autobiography of Bruce Wayne. They live happily ever after.
The
kinda.
comic ends with two little
Don't-
gravestones next to each other.
Oh damn!
Yeah. So
Nobody's gonna go back. Brad giving me dirty looks for spoiling something
Don't
from
spoil it.
1983. Oh man! Right after hearing that Week in Dork episode, I got to run out and find this comic from 1983.
I just don't want you to spoil our podcast episode on it.
Oh yeah,
Whatever.
that. Okay.
There's literally no crossover in the audience. No, that's not true because her name is Shara and she listens to both.
Hi, Shara.
Chris Chaka listens to both also.
Chris, what up, Chris?
Yeah. And we're going to bring some comic book listeners over to our ItMod. I know it.
Yay.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I need to get back into comics. I went to the comic book shop and I, bought 3 weeks worth of books that they've been holding for me. So yeah.
And the couple book that we're doing is He's Just Not That Into You by Greg Behrendt and Liz Ticilio.
Did the movie's based on?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
You love that movie?
Me too.
Oh man.
It's so sweet.
You love that movie?
I really do.
He
I
loves
need
that
to
movie.
get that on. I need to get it on Blu-ray.
We have it on DVD.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
What? Oh, huh?
I'm impressed.
I don't know. I really took to that film when I saw it. So I like it.
Cool.
All right.
So that was my week.
All right, B. My weekend dork. While you were gone,
Yeah.
Unlike Brian, when you lent him a box set of shit 3 years ago, and he still hasn't watched it. Before you left, you lent me a stack of Hulk comics.
Yeah, the Immortal Hulk.
Immortal Hulk.
Breaking
So I'm
Vertigo.
gonna start my weekend dork just briefly talking about that. I gotta say, man, I don't know that I necessarily like what they've done with this character. It's interesting because for me, I'm not even going to pretend to be that well versed in the Hulk as far as the comic books go. He was my favorite MCU character until Avengers: Infinity War came
Whatever,
out.
he still is. I refuse to believe you.
He will be. He is. So I guess most of what I'm taking into account when I'm reading this book as far as my history with that character is the film, but also, even what versions of that character that I read in the books and in the cartoons and other forms of media, I don't know. I guess it's because where I am with that character and Ruffalo's portrayal and what the MCU has done with
This
him
is
as far
very
as
different.
it's very different. But I can appreciate that it's just an alternative take on this character. For me, it's like a what if issue. What if the Hulk was this? What if he had this happen to him? And it's pretty freaking crazy. But I will say, I guess my bias, because of where I am with that character in its current form in the cinematic universe, makes me not necessarily take to this version of the character.
You're allowed to have your favorite iteration of your comic book character. That's one of the beautiful things about comic book characters.
Yes, and it is. If it's going to be that, it is the Hulk in the films. But I don't know. I dug the art in several of the issues. That's a big thing for me. I have to really enjoy the art in order for me to fully get into a comic, because that's just my illustrator background. But I just have to be honest, be like, I don't know. I'm curious about your thoughts of like, what did you think?
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted you to read it is because it's also not the Hulk I'm used to, right?
Right.
So when this series starts off, the Banner and the Hulk are like psychologically separated.
Yeah.
But the Hulk, this Hulk talks. He's not like Banner smash or whatever. He's totally articulate in his dialogue, and he's obviously very angry, and he's been killed and he's come back to life, and
so this is the version, right? That's right, because this is after Hulk was killed in Civil War II by Hawkeye.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And so there is a schism between those two personalities, and it's just weird. But I really enjoy it, and as the series progresses and it gets crazier and crazier, and at one point the Hulk is torn limb from limb and put into jars in this science laboratory, and then the jars break and then the Hulk reforms all his body parts. So like, you're not going to ever see that in the MCU.
No.
And then at the end of that series, or at least where you left off and where I left off, the Hulk goes to hell.
Yeah. That's when I was like, wait, what the fuck?
It's it's way different. I'm enjoying it. Is it like the Hulk I'm going to give to somebody who's like, I love the films and I want to see what he's like in the books? No.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying where it's going and how weird and gross and bizarre it is. And I like how angry this version of the Hulk is. Hulk is always angry.
This
one's scary angry.
Yeah. Which I found that interesting. I can't say that I did not like that or liked it. But I guess that's my take on...
And Banner's such a jerk in this.
That's my take on it as a whole. Is not so much, I disliked it, but I found the different choices from what I'm used to. I just found them interesting, and just they made me think, like, okay, well, what does this mean for this character if he keeps going this way, or in comparison to the Hulk, the Banner that I know. So I will say that I do appreciate the fact that it's just an entirely different take from what I'm used to. I've
been thinking about this a lot, especially with Lisa and I doing Batman. There are versions of those characters where, if Marvel has said, hey, Brad, go make a Hulk comic, my Hulk's going to behave in a certain way.
Right.
And so when I'm reading, that's the type of Hulk I want. So I would never write this version of the Hulk. And this is not the way I want Hulk to be forever.
Right.
But the ride I'm on, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about comics is, like once Al Ewing leaves the Immortal Hulk, somebody else is going to come over and maybe do a version that's more in tone with the character in your head.
Yeah. So I did that. See how that works, Brian? And I will give them back to you, Brad. So for my next recommendations. Anyway, the movie that I want to talk about...
I don't want Brian to give me Hitchcock back until he's watched them all.
You ain't ever getting Hitchcock back then.
I'm about to watch Vertigo.
He's about to watch Vertigo,
like
Brad.
right at this moment.
It's good.
He's about to.
It's good. He liked Rear Window 2 years ago, and I think he's going to...
North by Northwest 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Brad and I missed out on those Mondo Rear Window posters. We're so
those did look
so
good.
gorgeous. Did you like the red or did you like the teal?
I think the red one.
Yeah,
I like that red one. Yeah.
All right. The film I want to talk about. Spoiler warnings, people. Spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil this film. So if you plan on seeing Serenity, and I'm not talking about the Firefly movie, I'm talking about the 2019 film starring Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway and Jason Clarke. If you plan on seeing that film, you can go ahead and skip about 10 or 15 minutes because I'm going to spoil it. 3, 2, 1. So, all right. So I had no intention of seeing this film. I saw the trailer and I thought, okay, it's a thriller, a suspense thriller.
I like those actors.
I love the actors. The trailer sets it up as Matthew McConaughey is this guy who's living on this island, and one day someone from his past returns, and a la Anne Hathaway, and she propositions him, hey, I need you to rent your boat out to my abusive husband, take him out to the sea on a fishing trip, and then dump his ass over and let the sharks get him. And that that type of vibe, right?
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
And so I've seen that movie too. So I see the trailer and I go, okay, that's cool. I might check it out. I might not. Whatever. Wasn't any rush to see it. But then like I started seeing reviews, or at least the headlines for reviews and articles about the film, about how terrible it was, but then like how crazy the actual review that I did read, it was spoiler free, but it mentioned how the person who saw it wasn't sure if they loved it or hated it, but they just knew that what they saw was freaking nuts, but they didn't spoil like what this thing was, this twist was. So I became very curious, and at that point I had resolved that I'm not going to watch it in the theater, so I'm just going to go to Wikipedia and read the plot and find out what this thing is, because after I saw that initial article, I would see reviews popping up and comments about the movie online. It's sort of echoing that similar sentiment. So I was like, all right, let me just go to Wikipedia and save myself some money, or save one of my A-list movies for the week, and just find out what this thing is. But it wasn't like I went there and I couldn't find it. So shout out to Physics Rap Dork. He had seen he had posted on Facebook that he was watching the film in the theater. He checked in or whatever. So I was like, okay, I got to ask him what the deal is with that movie. But I never got around to it. So anyway, I finally go to the theaters because I had seen Lego Movie 2 like an advanced screening like a week or so early. I'd seen Battle Angel Alita a week or so earlier. So I had seen like stuff that I was interested already. So I had an open week in the theater, but I had nothing to watch. And so I was desperate to be in the theater. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go watch Serenity because I want to know what this twist is. And prior to that, I tell you what it was. Prior to that, I went at the screening for Battle Angel Alita. Physics was in the theater, and I didn't know he was going to be there. And we talked, and I said, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to ask you, what's the deal with Serenity? And he goes, you really want to know? I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go see the movie. And he tells me what the twist is, right? When he tells me, I'm like, what? Are you fucking serious? He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, I kind of wish you didn't tell me that now, because now I want to see this freaking movie.
Should I go into the other room? I don't know what it is yet.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Tell me.
Because him telling me, actually, him telling me, I think positively affected my watch of that film. Anyway, it is that setup that's in the trailer. Matthew McConaughey is this fisherman who lives on this island called Plymouth, and Jaimin Hanzu is his helper, his first mate or whatever, that will go out in jobs. So what he does to make a living is he rents his boat and he takes people out to sea, and you can have a fishing trip. He'll help you catch a marlin or whatever you want to catch. And so there is this tuna that he is Ahab obsessed with, this giant tuna, right? This giant tuna fish that, when we open the film, he ruins the fishing trip of two paying customers because he spots what he believes is that tuna that he's always been seeking. So he's like, screw you. I know I said I was going to give you a chance to fish, but I see this thing that I've been obsessing over, so I'm taking over this fishing trip. And so
Matthew McConaughey in the sea.
He has this compulsion, this obsession with this tuna, right? And so for a large portion of I guess maybe like the first 20 minutes of the film, it's just him on this island, living his life with this compulsion to catch this tuna, right? Diane Lane is in the film as she's someone who's on the island, and he goes to her. She pays him for sex. So he's, when you first see them, you think that he's paying her for sex, but it's the other way around.
It's your conventional thinking that made you think that.
Right. It was, actually. And so so finally Anne Hathaway comes into the picture, and just like in the trailer, hey, you were right, because she walks into the bar and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And she's like, you were right. He's an asshole. He's gotten super powerful and rich, and he's abusing me, and I'm scared for myself and the life of our son. Her and Matthew McConaughey have a son. So she says, my son, our son, has gotten so bad that he's withdrawn. He just stays in his room, covers himself with a blanket and stares into like this computer monitor, and he just escapes by sitting there playing video games all day, right?
Okay. And
because he misses his father, he's playing this game. He's playing this game that is it's basically kind of like how Matthew McConaughey's living. It's this fishing game. the island where the Matthew McConaughey lives in one of those large storage containers that's repurposed to like a one of those little small homes or whatever, and it's next to a lighthouse overlooking the ocean. In this video game that the kid's playing, like you just see like a fishing rod, and off in the distance you see like a thing with a rock cliff with a lighthouse and everything. And so she's like, he's just withdrawn, and all he does is play these video games to escape, what's going on. I'm afraid for my life. He's choked me out. He's abused me. I want you to take him out on your boat, and I want you to dump his ass off the side and let the sharks get him. Matthew McConaughey's like, why don't you, if he's so rich, why don't you just take our son and just leave the country? And she's like, yeah, you don't understand. Like, he's powerful. He'll find me and he'll fucking kill us. And Matthew McConaughey's like, just get out of here. I don't want anything to do with you, because apparently however they split and whatever terms they left on it were bad. And so he declines the offer. Anyway, weird shit starts happening. The fucking twist is everything you see with Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, anything on the island, all that shit's the fucking video game.
Ugh.
The kid has been... So the reveal at the end that Matthew McConaughey was his father, and he was a Marine. He died overseas on tour, like when he was in Iraq, right? So he dies, and she remarries, and Anne Hathaway remarries, and the guy that she happened to remarry is Jason Clarke, and he's an asshole, and he's abusive. And in the real world, the kid, whenever he's in his room, you can always hear her being abused or yelled at outside, and the kid creates this world in the game to escape the world that he's living in. And because his father's gone, he creates this character in the game so that he can have a relationship with his father, so he can see his father and be explaining it sounds crazy, but when you see the movie, it's not as bad as that, and as crazy as that sounds.
Sounds weird.
It is, but it is weird conceptually, right? But the biggest thing that has stumped me, and what I keep going over in my head, it's not really so much the movie, but it's just the marketing of that film, right? Because when you watch the trailer, none of that is alluded to in the trailer, like none of it.
When does the reveal happen?
It happens, I want to say, at the end of the second act.
Yeah, it's like about 3/4.
And then right before the beginning of the third, because when the reveal happens, it's revealed to Matthew McConaughey, hey, you're not real. You're in a video game.
Who says that to him?
So this, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell you in this analogy that I made. It's like, it's very similar to Vanilla Sky in that throughout almost the first two acts of that movie, you're like, this is just a drama, right? Yeah. And then that sci-fi element is introduced. And prior to the reveal to Tom Cruise, there's this mysterious guy that pops up here and there, and you're like, what the fuck is they doing? There's a guy on that island the same way. When you see the trailer, you'll see a guy in a suit on an island, in a suit with a briefcase and some round glasses, and he's always looking like really weird at Matthew McConaughey, like in passing or when a bus passes by, that guy's on there looking. So what the fuck is that guy's deal? Anyway, he's Vanilla Sky's tech support. He is a program in the game that is basically, he's the rules of the game. And if Matthew McConaughey kills the husband, he breaks the rules, because this is a game where there's no killing. But for some reason, because he thinks he's talking to his son, because Matthew McConaughey thinks he's real. So basically, anyway, when it's revealed to him, and he has this existential crisis, like, what the fuck, I'm not real. But if I'm not real, then I can do what I want, break these rules, and I can kill this guy because he's abusing my son, and I want to protect my son. So he still has it in his head, this urge to do this for his son. And so, yeah, anyway, I'm baffled by the marketing of this film, because like I said, when you watch the trailer, none of that video game shit is in the trailer. And on one hand, I do appreciate it, because I don't like when trailers spoil everything. But on the other hand, for this particular story element, I feel like the trailer is marketed towards a certain demographic, or even that type of film. Whereas like the video game stuff that's introduced in the film, that's just like a totally different type of demographic, a different audience. So the people who want to go see, and I'm not saying that a gamer wouldn't want to go see a suspense drama. I'm a gamer, and I like those types of movies. But I'm thinking about like people who aren't gamers, who are in their late 40s, 50s, or whatever, who just genuinely like, oh, I like Anne Hathaway. Oh, I love Matthew McConaughey. I want to see them in a movie together about some suspense or a thriller or whatever. And then they go, and then you have this video game shit that's introduced. I don't know. Like I'm curious as to what they were thinking as far as, because you're dooming that movie.
It's hard to market that. You know, like even like Vanilla Sky doesn't market the fact that it's a sci-fi film.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, because the moment Chris told me that's what made me go, what the fuck? Because like, how do you market that? Because they're not marketing it as that at all. And so the people who are gamers, who play Grand Theft Auto, who would appreciate, and I will say, people get turned off by the notion of the two words video game, right? But in relation to films and narrative and cinema, video games have come a long way. Brad, you were at my place playing Red Dead Redemption 2. You've seen like what video games do story-wise. You've seen how serious they take it, and the pedigree that's behind these productions, that basically you're playing a movie, right? And sometimes you're playing good movies. That Spider-Man game that I just beat the other day is just as good as any one of the films, right?
So add an AI to it, and you have Serenity.
Sort of, but so the part of me that the tech dork, the gamer who understands how games are made, how programs work, and how all that shit, like, that took me out of the film, because I'm like, okay, this kid's making a game on a desktop computer. There's no graphics card in the world that he can afford that would be able to have a character become sentient and think for itself on its own like that. Pixar's computer farm that they use to render their games can barely do shit like that. You would have to have like a supercomputer.
But it's not, so it's not like it pulls out and then you see what the characters actually look like in the game.
No. You never only at the when he's revealing it to Matthew McConaughey, it becomes a voiceover when you see the kid actually designing the character, designing the body.
But it
using
doesn't
vector.
pull out and it's like 8-bit characters.
No. It doesn't do it like that. It doesn't do it like that. No,
It's a bummer.
No, it doesn't do it like that. But yeah, I don't know. So like, I can see how people are caught off guard by that film and can be, and that experience leave a bad taste in their mouth about the film as a whole. Because there was only like 4 people in the theater with me, and 2 of them got up and walked out. Like, I would say not even at the end of I don't think they made it to the second act. But the people that were in the couple, and they were a young couple, I would say they were in their 20s, mid-20s. They were sitting behind me, and the movie ends, and the lights come up, and I just hear, that was weird. And I was waiting to hear what they were going to say. And sure enough, that's what I was expecting. That was weird, but I can get it. I can understand it.
It's written by Stephen Knight and directed by Stephen Knight, who made Locke and wrote Eastern Promises.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and so like the writing and the dialogue and stuff like that, like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but just it's an odd choice. But at the end of the day, the story is about a kid who is in an abusive home. His mother's being abused. And how it's affecting him. It causes him to withdraw into himself. And then at the end, so that compulsion, that offer to kill the father in the video game. So there's another character, Jaimin Hantu's character is trying to talk him out of it. Everyone on the island is trying to talk him out of it. And those people on the island, the good programs, the people who are saying you got to follow the rules of the game, Matthew McConaughey, that's really a metaphor for the kid, the son, the angel on his right shoulder telling him, because he's contemplating murdering this guy in real life. And so his contemplation of that mirrors, Matthew McConaughey's in-game character, like, should I not do this? And at the end of the film, that's how you get the reveal. Like, Matthew McConaughey in the game ultimately ends up carrying out that request and killing Jason Clarke's character. And then when this happens in that scene, is juxtaposed with that kid. hearing like some horrible shit going on outside his room, and he finally gets up and he opens a drawer, and in that drawer you have a military knife and a Purple Heart in the dresser drawer. You have a military knife. He takes that knife, walks out of the room, closes the door. The camera cuts in. I mean, the movie cuts in game to Matthew McConaughey committing that act, killing Jason Clarke, and then it cuts back to the real world. The kid comes back in the room, puts the knife on the table, and then something else happens. Then you have the news report, police report that a 13-year-old was just arrested for murdering his stepfather, blah, 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 blah. Reports also say the kid's real father, says his name, was actually killed several years ago in Afghanistan or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you see his picture in the frame with his Marines uniform on and the Purple Heart and stuff like that. So it's weird when you don't know that that's what it's going to be, but knowing that was the twist going into it, it didn't catch me off guard because I was expecting it. So I was just seeing how it was going to play out, and the way that it played out, I was like, it's not bad. But if I didn't know, I could see how that could be jarring. Like, wait, what the fuck? So in hindsight, I kind of wish I did not know, but also going into it knowing what was going to happen, I think helped me enjoy the film for what it actually was.
Brian, you saw it?
No, but I knew about the ending.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What if we're all in a game right now? What?
I hope not.
I know.
Who would be winning? Well, clearly me and Brad, we have an advantage.
Yeah. So if you were going to see that movie, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I spoiled it for you. Actually, I'm not. I just helped you out, actually. So now you know.
You were just spreading the love that physics gave you.
Yeah,
You're
I'm paying it
forward.
forward.
Oh,
shit.
Oh, no, we Freaky Friday. And now Darren is in my body and I'm in Darren's body.
Yay. All right. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Brian.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to this week?
Oh man, Alita, Battle Angel, and catching up with Happy Death Day to you because I'm gonna go ahead and watch the first one because I love that trailer, and so I'm excited. And everybody keeps telling me the first one's really really good, so those two films I'm really looking forward to checking out.
Wife Dork.
I'm not ready.
Oh.
Go to Brad and then come back to me.
Brad, what are you looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to our Sundance episode coming out.
Yeah.
Me too.
Where we're going to talk about the 40 plus films that we saw in Park City, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to launching our new ItMod Chatcast feed, so you'll be able to download and subscribe exclusively to that feed. We're going to kick things off with a few interviews that we did in Park City, Utah. I think the first episode is going to be with the director of the documentary 7852, which was all about the shower scene in Psycho.
Yeah.
And his new film is Memory, The Origins of Alien. 2019 is the 40th anniversary of Ridley Scott's Alien. And I love that movie, and I love his documentary about that movie. I think it's even better than 7852. So those are the things that I'm looking forward to.
You're not looking forward to Wednesday?
Oh, well, Happy Death Day to you. Yes. Oh, my gosh. No, Wednesday is the announcement of the Lost Weekend lineup that's going to occur on March 23rd. So, yeah, we'll be back out at the Alamo Winchester hanging with Andy Garrison and learning all those goodies.
Yes. I am also looking forward to all those things as well. You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow Brian at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. And Wife Dork. Oh, Wife Dork, what are you looking forward to?
I guess everything that Brad said.
Yeah.
Plus, I just found out that Ron Funches has a podcast, and I can't remember if I talked about his special Giggle Fit, but it's absolutely wonderful. He is a comedian who's all about positivity and bettering yourself. He's chosen not to talk about what he hates, but talk about what he loves, which I find so inspirational.
Yeah.
And I've listened to the first 2 episodes of Getting Better, and the first one is just him like talking to himself, just kind of vamping and talking about like where he comes from and what he hopes for this podcast. And then his second episode is with his mom.
Aww.
And it is so sweet, and you can totally hear where his sense of humor comes from and how he was raised in such like an accepting place. So I'm looking forward to binging the Getting Better podcast.
Okay. All right. I am. Oh, I already said what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, you can follow her at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram. She's also at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh, and Patriot Act with Hassan Minaj Volume 2 comes out today.
Gotcha. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. I'll stop talking.
Gotcha. And Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for our Fistful of Rough Starts in honor of Happy Death Day 2. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Welcome back, dorks.
Yeah.
And until next time.